Quick stat for you, almost a third of small business owners say the reason they don't trust AI more is that they're worried that it's just going to get things wrong. And I want to tell you something as somebody who runs a business in the space and went to school for it, as you can see back there. And it's going to sound backwards, but you're right to worry about that. AI totally gets things wrong. We see it rightfully in the media all the time about businesses getting clowned on for various use cases. And I think the misunderstanding is the fact that it's a tool. So we're seeing a bunch of people irresponsibly use the tool, and then the people that are pushing the tool are saying, actually, this tool is a machine, and it's not only can this machine do everything, it can do everything better than you can. And I think, first of all, that everyone's going to market and overhype things to sell things best they can. And politicians do it because they get some lobby money. AI companies do it because they get some money out of it as well. And I think the goal for most people isn't to trust a tool blindly. I mean, if it was, you're probably not, this video probably isn't for you. But I'd say nobody wants to either use the tool blindly and just, say, take the reins, here's my business, go run it for me. But nobody also wants to spend, 20 hours, 10 hours double checking every single word either. And I think there's a really specific small habit in the middle that completely fixes it. And it's something that I've seen in my business, that I've helped business owners with. And I would like to give it to you today for free, free of charge. Here's what I actually hear from people. Either they use AI once and something seems a little off and they go, it's not really reliable. I can't trust this, especially near my business, let alone maybe running an email. And maybe they slim down its usage depending on where it's located. Some businesses have API costs. Some just try it through a ChatGPT session. And then the other business owners go the complete other direction. They start putting AI outputs right into their emails. They put it into client documents, straight into invoices. I'm sure you've probably seen that story of the guy who fired his entire legal team and just listened to ChatGPT and he lost, obviously. So just because it sounds confident and smart doesn't mean it's right. And I think both of those approaches are mistakes. Both are trying to get you to figure out once and for all whether AI is trustworthy. Like it's a yes or no switch. It's not a switch. Nothing that drafts things for a living is 100% right, 100% of the time. Not AI, not your best employee, probably not even you. I mean, I know in my own business, and even when I've worked with partnerships, I've made mistakes that are the simplest things, like small spelling mistakes. Something I've done 100 times and would never make the mistake, and all of a sudden it shows up, and I'm in a meeting, and it's all over. So the question was never really, can I trust it? The question is, do I know what to check, and how fast can I check it? Nobody really teaches you that part when they're selling it to you. And it's kind of a coin flip every time when you use it. So here's the frame that fixes this. And it's probably the same one I give to everyone who asks me this. It's imagine having like a very capable junior assistant. It'll handle your first draft, the first 10 seconds. Instead of maybe a 40 minutes of you're putting in time, it's maybe a couple minutes, and you're still the editor. So you were always going to be the editor if that's your job, or maybe that's your role, or maybe you're a one-man show and you're kind of running everything. Then you kind of have it's not a free assistant, depending on if you pay for it or not, but it's definitely something that gets you a finished product out the door faster. But it's not completely AI generated, and it doesn't look horrible. It's the middle ground. You hear us talk a lot about that on this channel, that it's AI as a tool, and that using it is using it in the middle ground. You're not using it to run every single part of your business. A lot of the time you're letting it do the first draft of a lot of things, and then having your more experienced people that you've already been paying come in and do that work that you're already paying them for faster. So again, you're not replacing entire departments, as you've probably seen in the space. So I feel like that helps you get things out of the door faster. So here's how you actually build the check-in without it eating all the time that you want to save from using AI. First question, think about what the AI is doing and kind of what it's thinking, what its job is supposed to be. And we usually like to do a first draft of something. So an email, a report, a first pass of a proposal, summarize the contract that's going out to a client later today. Hopefully not later today, maybe a couple of days before. But that's usually the doing aspect. So that's around 70 to 80% of grunt work in most tasks. And your job, or the job you're paying your employees to do, that 20 to 30%, that thinking component, that judgment, that stays. You keep that in-house, because that's usually what you're paying people for, even if you don't know it. Like, obviously you want the email to go out, but you want the email to go out in a polished way. You want that contract to go out in a way where you're not going to get sued into oblivion. And that job can still be done by somebody, and it still needs to be done, lest you end up like that CEO who lost that suit that we talked about earlier, where he fired his whole legal team and trusted ChatGPT. ChatGPT would have done an amazing job as an assistant to a paralegal who had to go through, hundreds of pages of documents. But as functioning as the entire law team, fell apart. So that is a flaw in the system. And when you hear the Darios and the Altmans of the world talk about AGI, if it was really here, we'd all be retired tomorrow. So you want to implement it into the system that you're already running, because it can just help things accelerate faster. It's definitely something to consider with larger teams, but smaller teams, it's exponential. We've had people who are working in sprints for a week, and by Wednesday they're done. Sometimes even Tuesday. We've had one team that had Tuesday where they were done. They didn't have anything else to do. They just speed ran all their work because they were able to get to that thinking, that 20 to 30%, very, very fast. And they just flew through their work, and it's a lot of times the work that they enjoyed. So you've implemented AI into your business now. You've had that 70-30 split where your employees are doing the part of the job that most people actually enjoy doing. It's not really the grunt work they're doing anymore. That's kind of being speed ran with that first pass, and they get to read through it. So now we have to go through what we spend almost an entire day on in person, which is data handling. So that goes from everything from facts, numbers, specifics, because AI tends to pull that kind of out of nowhere. Especially, well, it's not out of nowhere; it's from training data. So when you don't give it enough real information to work with, and you're not proofreading, it'll just pull whatever it wants. And you want to be fact checking. Did you make up a statistic? Did you assume a price or a policy? That's a really big one. We've seen a ton. We've seen prices just been completely made up based on like the averages of in certain industries, or policies. Policies is another one. Policies are huge. We haven't had anybody been sued by that sort of thing, but thankfully we've worked with really responsible teams. But policy is another big one I've seen in industries where it just gets pulled out of thin air. It's policies that aren't even the businesses. So that's a 5-second scan. Once you know what you're looking for, it's not really a full reread, especially for you and your employees. You can really speed run work. Again, I talked about that 3 to 4x. You've probably heard me talk about it. I mentioned in other videos. Most businesses we work with, that 3 to 4x increase. The Darios and the Altmans of the world want you to believe it's a 10, which, I mean, for their business, it's probably great. But in reality, it's probably 3 to 4. But again, 3 to 4 is insane. If you told me as a business owner a couple of years ago that we could get that with a few hundred bucks a month, I would jump on the chance. So the next thing is building that habit for the workflow itself, in terms of checking for those specifics, those facts, those numbers, even the policies. So you don't want this step bolted on afterward. You want to have it already ready to go in your workflow. With your client emails, you have a draft, you can personally hit send, never auto send. And if you have a drafting a report, have it flag anything it's unsure about. Write it in the text or leave it in a comment so your eyes go straight to it when you're scanning the whole thing blind, or your employees are scanning the whole thing blind. This is the exact kind of thing we build into workflows for people. It's a review checkpoint. So it's really fast, and it's tailored exactly to what you are worried about. So if you kind of give it a first report and you kind of have all this stuff built in, but you still catch some stuff, it's a template, and you can change it around, and it will, again, that 3 to 4x comes up almost within the first week. Usually the week that we're there, and then if anything, it gets faster once we leave because teams actually have a time to get familiar with the tool and work with it. So that review checkpoint, it's fast, it's tailored, and it removes a lot of the risk. And it's not really a tax on the time that you're saving, in the sense of you might have to spend a little bit extra time working with the tool, kind of getting to know it. But compared to the time you do save in the long run, it's already insane. And the time that you usually have saved can go straight into improving the tool that you already have. So you can absolutely set this up yourself. I would say pick 3 really high stake tasks and decide what wrong looks like for each one. And just check for that. And that's really the whole system. Obviously, you can tell it what to do the right, but just knowing what not to do is already insanely helpful. And so I'd say give it a shot. Most people, again, that 3 to 4 times increase faster than doing it by hand, by a long shot. So that's the pattern that I see over and over. It's never trust it completely or don't touch it. It's figure out 20%, check that, move on. Once that clicks, that fear of it being wrong basically disappears, because you're not hoping if it's right, it's confirming along the way with you. Here's the honest truth about AI accuracy. It's not supposed to be right 100% of the time. I know the AI bros would have you believe it, but it's not really your best employee. The question was never, can I trust it? It's what's the 20% that I need to check? AI does the doing aspect in terms of the draft, the first pass, the grunt work. You do the thinking, the judgment call on whether this is actually right to send out to a client. Maybe this contract has too many dashes in it, or this number is incorrect. It kind of just pulled that out of its training data. Knowing that you can split the work up in a way that you can still do the part that your skill set is still valuable in, that you're not kind of pushing out slop. It removes the fear entirely, and you're no longer kind of hoping for a half-decent output. You're really confirming that you're going to get a quality result every time, and one that you can confidently ship out. If you've been holding off on AI because you genuinely don't know where it fits in, I would say it's not a you problem. Nobody really ever shows you what to check for. And because most of what's already out there is either AI will replace everyone hype or really dense technical stuff that kind of assumes you're already a developer, what actually works is a way simpler than either of those. It's a personal AI setup, built around 2 or 3 things that you do every week, or you or your team, because you kind of already know what to look for at a glance. That's kind of like the front door, getting your foot through the door entry point, the gateway, if you will. Some people kind of just take that and stop right there, and you can get pretty good results just with that. Again, it's not what the Darios and the Almonds would have you believe. It's really using it and taking the tool and using it for yourself and not replacing you or your employees, because then you get a horrible end result. It's having those checks and balances in place. So some people bring in their whole team once they see how this works. Either way, it starts with one setup. So one person, low risk, that's usually what we do. And then we kind of give a huge presentation about it to kind of train everybody else on it. So if you don't know where to trust AI's output, here's the fix. Stop treating it as all or nothing. Figure out your highest stakes, those 20% that we talked about earlier, the client-facing stuff, the legal language, those policies we talked about, and check that very closely. Everything else can kind of be skimmed, and you can move on pretty quickly. That one habit really makes the difference between people who use AI well and people who over-trust it and kind of give it everything completely. I think that really separates from people who know how to use a tool and the AI bros that kind of just, let AI take the wheel and go for it. It removes a lot of your agency and your expertise as an individual and the value that you as a person bring with your skill set and understanding. If you want help figuring out exactly what that 20 to 30% is and kind of building a setup where checking is already baked in, and it's kind of almost a drag and drop system. You can book a free call with us. It's 30 minutes. The link is below. We'll walk you through your specific week if you're a team and show you exactly what it'd look like. If you're an individual, it's about 1 day. And if you're not ready for the call yet, we run a free hour-long webinar that walks through almost the whole framework. So it's not really a pitch, it's really just content. Either way, if we can help, we'd love to. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day, and bye-bye.